What's happening, guys? Oxford King here. In this video, I wanted to go over some settings that I think would benefit you in your gameplay for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. The first thing I wanted to start with is go ahead and open up your menu, and let's go ahead and get into the system area, and then go to options and go into gameplay. So the first thing that I know that I swapped for my playstyle was the swap guard and command shortcuts button. This is one of the first things that I found out about during my gameplay session on stream, was when you disable or enable this, what this does is if you look on the bottom left corner of your screen, it tells you what it does. It says it basically swaps your R1 and L1. So if you're anything like me, you kind of like having your guard or block or parry button mapped to, you know, L1, like all the other games that I know that I play, like God of War, all the Souls games, you know, Bloodborne, all those kind of games. And I got so used to hitting L1, you know, for blocking. Now, here's the caveat to that. You have to basically, and I'll fire up a session here to kind of show you what I mean. This is going to mess with your shortcut menus. So remember in the past, where if you hit R1, you would open up your quick menu, right? Or L1, right, in this game. So basically, when you swap your buttons, R1 is now going to be your quick actions, your shortcuts, okay, to your abilities. And then L1, because you swapped it, is now going to be your synergy skills, your shortcuts to your synergy skills. So just remember that going in. You may have to unlearn what you've been learning for Remake and in Rebirth, but that's only if you want to do that. Me, I'm a fan of it because I like to block with L1. It's just something that's been engraved in my mind with all the games that I have. It's just hitting L1 to block. Here's one for MIA and how much she talks. There's a lot of us out there that are like, man, will you just not talk as much? There's no way to turn her off completely, but there is a way to turn her off like repetitively when you visit or revisit an area you've already beaten. So if you open up your menu, go to gameplay, go to the very bottom just by hitting up on the D-pad, takes you all the way down to the bottom, by the way. It says completed assignment guidance. Now, if you look at what it actually says, it says the following: toggle whether MAI will offer guidance when visiting the territory of a completed combat assignment. And you open this up and your toggles are yes or no. I would recommend that you say no to this, because if you say yes, she'll always repeat her dialogue as the game continues in every area you revisit. So my recommendation, turn this off. It will not turn her off completely. So the very first time you visit an area, she still will talk. But when you go back there to maybe, like, let's say you failed a mission, you know what I'm saying? Like an example right here. Let's say you're like, oh man, I didn't get the defeat all enemies mission in the world intel. And as soon as you go and retry, you're not going to hear her talking again. See right here, as an example, I'm retrying the combat and you don't hear MAI speaking again and again and again and again over the character's dialogue and stuff like that. So just a quick tip there, okay? So the next one is the minimap or the tracker. If you look at the top right-hand part of your screen, they added a circular minimap with all the icons on it. There's a lot of settings when it comes to the minimap, and I want to walk you guys through that. So open up your menu and go to System and then Options, and then next is going to be your gameplay. If you scroll down to the minimap, you're going to have static and dynamic. So right now it's on static. I'm going to put it on dynamic and show you what that looks like. Go ahead and back out of the menu here. So now you have dynamic, which basically means it spins along with your camera. Okay, so there's an example of that. So now let's go to the world navigation display. If you drop this down, you have tracker, minimap, and none. So tracker is like we saw in Final Fantasy Remake. You can have that back in this game, and now it's the tracker at the very top of your screen. The good thing with this is it feels like you have a better sense of direction of where things are when you pan your camera, in my humble opinion. So not only does it have that, so you can actually point your camera, okay, I need to go in that direction. But the second thing that I really like is without the minimap, it feels like you have more gameplay real estate. You know what I mean? Like the top right corner minimap is gone, and now you can see more of the game. So think of the minimap or the tracker as, you know, just basically that it's like a miniature version or a shorter version of that minimap and the information that you need. So I actually prefer the tracker. There was a time when I was playing the demo where I actually liked the minimap a lot more, but the more I played the game, the more like, man, I really want to see the game. So I took off the minimap, and the tracker is what I'm going to end up going with going forward. Next up in the list is this terrain action guide, which is right beneath the minimap area we just got done talking about. If you come over here, it says terrain action guide, and it's set to off, but it says the following: toggle the display of an icon that indicates interactable surfaces. This only appears when you are not sprinting and your options are off or on. So when you turn this on, this is what it looks like whenever you're walking around with your controlled character here. If you look down at the ground, it'll basically let you know that you can, traverse on that terrain. So like this rock here, Cloud's walking up against it and he can't do it. But over here, there's like a light indicator. You see that light? There's a symbol or an icon on the ground, basically letting you know that, yeah, I can walk up. I can walk up on this just like this. The next big one on the list here, and I didn't even know about this until later on in my play session, is this whole combo targeting area. It's in the options. Go to gameplay right about halfway through. And this here, if you look at the bottom left corner, it says set target switching functionality during a combo. And so you have your options of fixed and free. And when you set it to free, it says this right here. It says enable target switching when performing a combo using attack. Cannot be used while locked on to a target. Keep that in mind. So when it says fixed, disable target switching when performing combo using attack. But for free, this is for non-locked on targets. I actually do lock on to targets a lot, actually. But just know that if you're going to go the free route, cannot be used while locked on to a target. I have to keep saying that message because some people may miss that. But let's take a look. I'm going to leave it on fixed, and we'll show you an example of what fixed combo targeting looks like with multiple targets on the screen. Let me go ahead and show you an example. I'm going to take control of Cloud here. So basically, whenever you're doing your combos like this here, you're basically locked on with a fixed camera of basically kind of keeping you in, on this one enemy here, okay? So what I'm going to do is try to take advantage of the free one. So here's an example of like the free form. Basically, whenever you have multiple targets in and you're not locked onto the target, you can actually freely do your, your combo spamming, whatever you want to call it. And this is without locking on, by the way. So you can freely just kind of do your thing and just pan your camera around, and it just works. It just goes. You don't feel so confined. Does that make sense? So like, with the free targeting on, you can just attack at free will. It's exactly what the free combo stands for. This is much you're gonna feel the difference instead of seeing the difference on a video. You'll know what I mean when you activate this. It's gonna feel so much better. Here's another one for you guys. It's called Combat Display Guide. You can turn this off or on, and you can only see this when you're in combat. So I can show you an example here. Look at the bottom left corner of your screen. You see where it says issue command, L2, R2, switch characters, evade. That whole section there. If you like that there, leave this option on. But if you want more screen real estate and you want to see more of the game, you can disable that. And this is how you do it. So go to systems option and then gameplay. And then if you scroll down to where it says combat controls guide display, drop that down, hide or display. You just saw what it looked like with it on. I'm going to hide it. Let's go into a combat and show you an example of what it looks like. Now, look at the bottom left corner of your screen. That complete section is missing, and it just has your basic attack commands of your triangle, square, X. So it's a lot cleaner. But the downside that, especially if you're new, you're not going to notice some certain actions that you're not going to know even existed. There's certain things that you'll hit L1 or R1 that you may not know is there if that was not there. You get what I'm saying? So for me, I may leave it on for a little bit, and then as the gameplay continues, I'll probably end up disabling. You know what I mean? Like for instance, when you're playing Sephiroth, I had no idea that when you press and hold L1 or your block button, you go into a retaliation stance. I didn't even know that was a thing. And had that not been down there, I wouldn't have known that there was a retaliation mode because the information was on the screen. You get my point? So it's kind of like a toss-up of what you like. If you know what you're doing and you know the game really, really well, disable it and have more screen real estate. Moving over to the camera section of your options here, and some of you guys probably already know some of these things, but some may not. This is a camera distance option. So when you're out of battle, you have a distance of 1 to 3. And some folks don't like the fact that the camera is pulled out really much further in this game than in Remake. I actually like the camera pulled out because I do play Final Fantasy 14, and I love the fact that that camera, you can zoom like, way out. So with this game, they do give you the option to kind of toggle it between 1 and 3 on the camera, just in case you didn't know what was there. Same thing for battle. You can do 1 through 3 on the distance, which I'm a fan of because there's so much going on the screen. I always turn this to completely as far out as possible. This game is way more complex than Remake. There's so much going on. Camera repositioning, you can do this off or on. If you look at the bottom part of your screen, it says with this function, the camera gradually repositions itself directly behind the character. And then you can also, hey, I just installed FF7 Rebirth. Woohoo! I'll leave that in the recording too. So camera repositioning is going to be on, enable automatic camera repositioning. So some people like this. I'm on the fence with this, and I'll try to capture what this means or how it looks in the game, but you're not going to know until you feel the game, like with your controller, and you're like, okay, I see what this is about. But camera repositioning, we'll leave it on. So basically, you know, it's exactly how it says. So let's say I'm going to run this way. You see, so look, I'm going to show you right now with hands. Right here. Look, I'm just going to run with right here and watch what happens to the camera. It has this like automatic pan, right? It just kind of follows and tails, you know, whoever you're controlling. It doesn't have to be Cloud, but you'll see what I mean. It's got this like automatic, and sometimes it's good, and sometimes it can be dizzy and a little annoying. But it's kind of a toss up. I'm on the fence, but let me show what it looks like with this off. Okay, I'm gonna hold up the controller so you can see what I'm doing here. This is your movement button right here. So now I'm gonna move, and you can see the camera stays static. All right, so this is, you know, again, absolutely your choice, but just know that the developers put in the choice. If you like kind of like a chase camera, is like, I know it as a chase camera. So you can do a chase camera, or you can do a free camera like this where you take full control of your camera. So a lot of times this can be good when, let's say, an enemy is running at you, you can run around and you can still see the enemies. I know when I play a lot of Souls games in PvP, I hate when the camera has automatic spinning because I have to like babysit the camera. Whereas with this, you're running towards you, like you can actually see what's behind you while the character is running towards you. You get what I'm saying? So for me, I'll probably end up leaving this off because I do like control of the camera. I don't want it to be auto repositioned. So just a little tip there. You know, here's one as well. It's kind of the same as camera repositioning, but it says attack target correction. So if you look at the bottom left corner, it says change the setting for automatic camera adjustment when attacking off-screen targets. You can leave this on or off. So I don't have any examples right now, but basically when there's an enemy off the camera, right, you can't see them. You can either A, have the camera automatically positioned to that enemy as you're attacking, or B, you take full control. So for me personally, I'm going to leave this off because I find it annoying that the camera will start spinning around just out of nowhere. And you're like, what the heck's going on? That's because this is set to on. So if you're not a fan of like automated camera positionings, just turn all this off and you take full control of the camera. Another option here that can kind of go in tandem or has synergy with the camera distance at the top, you could always turn the camera pullback off or on. If you're not a fan of the camera pulling back for like any reason whatsoever, just leave this off or on. Totally up to you. I really don't mind it, but it says at the bottom with this function, the camera pulls back to show a wider area with the character or while the character is moving. So I'm a fan of it, but some people may not like that. So you can turn that off. Same goes for post-action refocus. This is basically one of those automated camera positioning functions, or an ability, or an option rather. It says the following with it off. It says camera position does not automatically readjust after performing certain actions like scaling walls or climbing ladders. So again, this is the more automated camera positioning thing. If you don't like that, you can turn it off or leave it on if you want to see how it looks. But this is basically what it does. Like the camera will just kind of pull in and out when you're doing things. Another one here that you're going to want to switch is called lock on switching. If you drop this down, you're going to have switch in order or directional input. And it says switch targets by using the R stick. And then directional input says switch target with the R stick to aim in the direction of a new target. So switch in order, think of it as, you know, lettered enemies, like let's say A, B, C, D, and then A1, B2, B3, or whatever, C3. It's like that. It's like it's going to switch in that order. But if you do directional input, you'll have a little bit more control over who you're targeting. So in my opinion, lock on switching, I would do direction input rather than the game thinking or trying to think what it's basically. You're going to have more control of what you're targeting. Think of it that way. And less of the game saying, oh, well, these enemies are A through D, so when you cycle, it's going to go A through D. We don't care about what you want. That's basically what this is. So I would recommend putting it on direction input. Next up is the lock-on controls. There's going to be 3 options here. By default, it's on camera controls, where you actually when you're locked onto an enemy with R3, you can flick the right stick to move around about your camera, okay? The next one is menu controls. Now this one says press R3 to lock on, but now to switch between targets, they're taking away the R stick and you're gonna switch between targets with your D-pad, left or right. But here's the thing as well, is now you have to cycle through your party members with up and down. So keep that in mind. I actually prefer using left and right on the D-pad to switch between my characters, then up and down, but that's just me. That's just how I learned. It's hard to unlearn that. And this one here is a very popular menu controls and auto camera, but just keep in mind that this borrows from the menu controls. I almost wish there was a fourth option that was camera controls with auto camera. You know what I mean? Because I actually don't like using the menu controls, the D-pad, to cycle through enemies, and I don't like using up and down to cycle through my party. I don't like that. But the auto camera is pretty cool. So again, I mean, I'm going to leave it on camera controls for default, but this one's really nice for the auto camera. I'll just kind of give you an example. So when I go to camera controls, I'll put it on the auto camera and I'll show you what it's like, especially during aerial combat. Let me go ahead and fire this up here. And let's go as, see, I'm already hitting left and right on the D-pad. I'm not cycling through my party. I'm hitting left and right and nothing's happening. That's going to be weird for me. So let's go to Tifa. So if we go to Tifa, we'll just go ahead and go up here. And you have to be locked onto the enemy. This is not a free camera thing. And you'll notice that the camera stays on the enemy even when you're dodging around like this. You see how the camera is on? It's really nice. Although the other way is just as good, but you have to babysit the camera just a little bit more. So with the auto camera feature, this is a nice QOL. But again, just keep in mind that you can no longer use your right stick to cycle through enemies, and you have to up and down to go through your parties, okay? If this guide was helpful, please drop a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next Final Fantasy VII Rebirth guide. Y'all take it easy.